Welcome to another episode of Tour de Hype. We are all familiar with infographics. You meet them on a daily basis as printed and digital versions. Creating a true infographic, however, is a piece of art. And to be honest, I'm not the right person to teach you how to do that. What I want to do is to show you how you can easily convert a plain infographic into a rich infographic with Tumult Hype. That means adding animations and interactivity to break down the complex topic into bite-sized chunks and let users explore on their own, for more engagement and a stronger pull-in. So let's take a look. So this is our infographic that we're dealing with today. You can see that, or let me run this real quick again in the browser. You can see that it starts with a small intro animation, and then the user can choose between different options here, different states. Clicking on the state or the call to action element will trigger the animation down here, and it will display the amount of, or the ratio of area to population. And we see, of course, California is quite small in the area, but has a high population, whereas Nevada is vice versa, is revised in that regard. And then we've got Texas. And now, how do we do that? Especially getting the animations to start from that point, going to the intended position and changing the name accordingly. This is something that I want to show you with this example. Let me jump into the Hype app real quick. And here you can see that this intro animation is pretty straightforward. Here you've got the call to action elements coming in one by one. This is the beauty of using a visual design tool, a visual authoring tool for creating this kind of animations. It's done really quickly, just adding a display value here, switching from hidden to visible, and then starting this animation and using the same animation over and over again. Makes it really simple. But let's focus more on the functional part here. So how do we get this animation going down here? Let me quickly jump into this symbol. It's I called it bar container, and it actually contains the different animations on different timelines. So on the main timeline within the symbol, there's nothing going on, but then there are 3 different timelines. You can add new timelines here, and these are the parts where the animation is going on. And I actually took the number that I got from Wikipedia to really make this appropriate, just changing the size, the width size of the element to an aspect ratio of the actual area size to make it really appropriate here. So as you can see, the animation just goes from 0 pretty much to the intended space. But how do I get the animation, for instance, from Texas to California and vice versa? This is where the so-called, going back into the main timeline, here where relative timelines come into place. This is what you find here. So if I click this checkbox for making the timeline relative, it will automatically use the keyframes appropriately. So using the first keyframe from the current position to calculate the new initial position. So it remembers from where to go, pretty much. So this is very, very powerful. This is unique in Tumult Hype. So make sure to check that out. So you don't even have to know that much about animation, about scripting for this kind of thing. It's pretty convenient that this is built in here. The second part that follows along is to create so-called custom behaviors. It's a feature in Hype Pro, and it's really powerful since you can create your own behaviors. For instance, in this symbol, I just add a new behavior and I can give it a name, and in this case on Play California. Play California is the name right here, and I can, for instance, say it should start this particular timeline, and so the timeline California is what I meant, and make sure that that this particular timeline is selected here, so it's triggered. And I've also added a custom JavaScript, but let's go to that a little bit later. First of all, let's now see how can we start this, how can we use this new behavior. And this is also quite nice that it's built in the infrastructure here in the Hype app. I can use a simple action, predefined action here, and say trigger custom behavior. And once I have defined custom behavior anywhere, I can select from my predefined behaviors and say, okay, whenever the user clicks on this icon here, this call to action, this Play California behavior is going to be triggered. And as you have imagined, the same goes for Nevada, Play Nevada, and also for Texas, Play Texas. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to create new timelines and add new behaviors here. And the second part that I wanted to show you here is changing this state name value down here. In this case, I'm using a little bit of JavaScript, but bear with me, it's really not that complicated. So as you have seen, I'm still using the same behavior. So whenever the user clicks on that particular icon, I'm using the predefined behavior inside the symbol here. Let me go back there, show you. And in this case, it was Texas, but never mind, because it's the same function that I call every time. So every time one of the buttons is clicked, I run this custom JavaScript. And let me jump in here real quick. I can make this a little bit bigger, or I can zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so what I'm pretty much doing is I'm using the event that is being triggered, and look for the custom behavior name. And whenever this custom behavior name is Play California, the state name should be set to California, or if it's Nevada, to Nevada, Texas, and so forth and so on. And then I use getElementById to get this text element that I had built inside of the Hype app, and change the inner HTML, so the text within the text field, to the selected state name. As you have pretty much guessed, I think, you can copy paste this code and modify it whatever you need. So don't think that you have to be a pro coder on that. It might not be the most convenient approach there is, but I think it's a quite good way to get you guys going with playing around with relative timelines and adding a little bit of code. I might do another sample a little bit later, being a little heavier on the coding side, but making it more modular and getting rid of a little bit of the redundancies that we've seen here. But this is somewhere in between. And I think if you take a closer look at the sample, just one last thing I want to show you here, the state name, how to set the unique ID for an element. It's right here in the property panel and the identity inspector. You can set your own ID and then use Hype document .getElementById to get this ID. All right, so that's it for today. Make sure to check this out. Let me run this one more time for you. This is of course merely a simplified example to demonstrate the underlying concept here. The more you start thinking in terms of rich infographics, the more compelling your results will become, and the sky is the limit. So I hope I could encourage you to try this out, download the project on tourthehype.com, and make sure to check out all the other samples as well. Happy animating!